Thank you very much. So I think we can start now, and then others can join in the meantime. Good morning or good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our first technical session of the MENA webinar series on linkage between NDC and BTR. Focus on NDC tracking and projection tools. And this webinar is organized under the CBIT-GSP Capacity Building Initiative for Transparency, the Global Support Program, which is funded by Jeff and executed by UNEP, Copenhagen Climate Center. So this is just the overall objective of this webinar series, which is to strengthen technical and institutional capacities of the MENA countries to effectively prepare and report under the enhanced transparency framework of the Paris Agreement. So over the 3 sessions, we'll explore how NDC and BTR are linked within the ATF reporting cycle, how to apply the common tabular format for NDC tracking, how to develop smart indicators, and also how to use mitigation assessments and projection tools. So before we start, let me briefly introduce the structure of this webinar series. So the series will start from today, the 3rd November to the 5th November, and consists of 3 workshops, each building on the previous one. So the first one, which we are starting today, will focus on understanding the linkage between NDC and BTR, and also introduce the latest guidance for preparing NDC 3.0. The second workshop will take place tomorrow and will focus on smart targets, indicators, and how to report them effectively through the BTR, and also on how to calculate the progress made. And finally, the workshop number 3 on the last day will explore mitigation assessments and GG missions. So by the end of the series, participants will have a full picture from setting NDC target to tracking progress and projecting future emissions. Today's workshop will focus on the linkage between the NDC and the BTR. So we'll review the latest guidance for NDC 3.0 preparation and key takeaways from the 2023 Global Stocktake, including how these outcomes influence the next cycle of the NDC. We'll also discuss how the information to facilitate clarity, transparency, and understanding, or the ICTU tables, and also the common tabular format, or CTFs. All right, so here a quick overview of our agenda. So we'll start with the opening remarks, followed by session number 1, which will cover the key concepts on NDC and BTR linkages. We'll then move into the technical presentations, focusing on information to facilitate clarity, transparency, and understanding, or ICTU. And then we will conclude with a short interactive Menti quiz or exercise. And that will be all for today. Now, please join me in warmly welcoming Ms. Sarah Bendail from Saudi Arabia, representing the consultative group of experts, CGE, to deliver the opening remarks. Please, Sarah, the floor is yours. Thank you very much for joining.
Thank you so much, Kulthum, for the warm welcome. Assalamu alaikum, sabah al-khair, and masa al-khair, everyone. I apologize if my sound or my voice sounds a little bit unclear. I guess I fell victim to the seasonal flu. But I would like to warmly welcome you to this webinar series on behalf of the consultative group of experts, which I will hereinafter refer to as CGE. My name is Sarah Bendail, Rapporteur of the CGE. It is, of course, a pleasure to address you at this follow-up webinar to the workshop held for MENA region on the linkage between NDC and BTR, focused on NDC tracking and projection tools. On behalf of the CGE, I express my gratitude to the organizing partners. After the intensive learning and discussion during the workshop, I trust you acquired new knowledge and insights and also had the opportunity to learn from each other. You would recall that I raised a few questions in the video I recorded for the welcoming remarks to consider and discuss during the workshop. These are: where do we see the cost-effective opportunities to tackle climate change in ways that could support sustainable development and help making our communities and economies more climate resilient? And which policies or actions can help us take advantage of these opportunities? When we bring the answers to these questions into national planning, we can connect our short-term goals with our long-term vision towards low emission and climate resilient pathways. Um, I would like to highlight that ETF enables countries to build a stronger evidence base for identifying needs and setting priorities that enhance climate policies over time. In addition, provide donors and investors with a clear picture of support needs. And last but not least, also ensures that assessment of global climate action, identifying areas where more effort and support are needed. Please also note that the BTR synthesis report has published very recently, which provides evidence of global progress towards NDC targets, contributes to the assessment of collective progress under the global stocktake process, and provides policymakers with insights on opportunities and challenges in NDC implementation. And in closing, I want to reaffirm that the CGE is fully committed to continue providing technical advice and support with an aim to ensure universal participation to the enhanced transparency framework. Together, we can build on the progress of the past years and continue to pave the way for more inclusive and impactful climate action. I thank you for your attention and wish you a fruitful discussion. I hope you will enjoy the rich insights that will emerge from your discussions. And thank you again. And thank you, Kulthum.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to have you with us. And now I would like to ask our participants to open their cameras to take the group picture, if you don't mind. Rihab, it's nice to see you. Fernando, Hussein, Nasif, it's nice to see you. Anas, we are waiting for others. Please open your camera.
Kaltum, I am
Majid.
not allowed to open my camera.
Say Hassan?
Kaltum, can you hear me?
Everybody has access to the camera, to open the camera.
Not me. I can't access to open the camera. Busham talking.
Mr. Busham, I will see that. I will. Okay, Mr. Busham, where are you? Mr. Busham, I don't know why, but
No problem. You can go ahead without me. Take the picture.
no,
Please,
you are already
please do
here.
it.
Okay, just let me take some pictures. You can check Mr. Busham now.
No, I cancel it. It's okay.
Hi, everyone.
It's okay.
Abdel Ghani from Jordan is one of our active members. Just one more picture. All right, we are done. Thank you very much. It's really a pleasure to see all of you. Vanya, you look great. So I will just share my screen now for the first session. Yes. All right, this is our first session. Muna has some problems with connection, I think. All right, thank you very much and welcome to this first session of our MENA webinar series. This session sets the stage for the series by explaining how the NDC process, the Enhanced Transparency Framework, and also the global stocktake are interconnected under the Paris Agreement. And we'll also look at what NDC 3.0 means for our countries as we prepare our next cycle of contributions. So in this session, we'll look at four main objectives. First of all, to better understand the NDC process and the new cycle of NDC 3.0 due in 2025. And second, to review the outcomes of the global stocktake from COP28 and how they guide our next steps. And third, to apply the guidance from decision 4SIMA1 and on how to prepare and communicate NDCs clearly and transparency. And finally, to explore also how NDC and BTR and the Enhanced Transparency Framework are connected together and how this cycle can be strengthened across the MENA region. All right, so this slide is just an overview summarizing the ambition cycle of the Paris Agreement, which is considered as the central engine driving global climate action. So at the heart of the cycle is our shared objective, which is to limit global temperature rise to well below 2 degrees Celsius or 1.5 degrees Celsius. And as you can see, around this objective, we have a continuous cycle of planning, implementing, and review. And this is what we call the ambition cycle. First of all, it starts with the plan phase, where each country defines its nationally determined contribution or NDC under Article 4. And also including adaptation communication and information on finance. Then comes the implementation phase, where countries put their plans into action through mitigation and adaptation measures and mobilize the means of implementation, such as, for example, finance, technology, transfer, and capacity building. And finally, we move to the review phase, which is including the ETF or the Enhanced Transparency Framework, comply with the compliance process, and also the global stocktake. All right, now that we've seen the overall ambition cycle of the Paris Agreement, this slide takes us to a step deeper into how its three main components, the NDC, the Enhanced Transparency Framework, and the Global stocktake, actually interacts and reinforce each other. So here we can think of them as three interlinked stages of just one single process. First, we have here NDCs. So NDCs are representing the planning and commitment phase. As I mentioned earlier, countries here communicate what they intend to achieve, their emission reduction targets, adaptation goals, and even the support needs or the supports provided for developed countries. So the next generation of NDC 3.0 should be also shaped by the findings of the global stocktake of 2023, and we will see everything about that. And next, we move to the Enhanced Transparency Framework, or what we call the ATF. And this is where actually those commitments are tracked and reported. So here, countries need to submit their biennial transparency reports, or BTRs, every 2 years. And these reports are undergoing also a technical expert review and a facilitative multilateral process, which is also a review process. Both of them are helping actually countries to identify areas for improvement. And finally, we have the global stocktake. And the global stocktake is just a 5 years checkpoint. So it brings everything together using information reported through all BTRs by all countries to give us like an assessment of the collective progress and compare it with the long-term objective of Paris Agreement. Yeah, so the process follow a clear rhythm, as we can say. After communicating the NDCs, every 2 years, countries report under the ATF the BTR. The BTR, it's sharing updates on the national GHG inventory, on the NDC progress, on adaptation efforts, and even the support flows. And then every 5 years, the global stocktake takes place using all those reports and in order to assess the collective progress as we mentioned. And that global stocktake come out with recommendations for the updated NDC. So what's important here is the feedback loop. So the outputs from the ATF feeds into the global stocktake, and the results of the global stocktake inform the next NDC cycle. All right, so following Article 4.2 of the Paris Agreement, every party is committed to prepare, communicate, and maintain successive NDCs. This means that countries are not only expected to make like a kind of pledges, but to maintain and strengthen them over time. So each NDC must represent an updated national effort to reduce the emissions and also to adopt domestic mitigation measures which are aligned with the global temperature goals. And it's also a reminder that the NDC is a kind of living instrument. So it needs to be updated every 5 years. All right, following the NDCs, we move now to the ATF, or the Enhanced Transparency Framework, which is established under Article 13 of the Paris Agreement. So as you may all know, the ATF is a common framework which is applicable to all parties with specific flexibility provisions provided to developing country parties that need this in the light of their capacities. It's also, it has two main purposes, one related to climate action and climate support. And the first one is actually to provide the clarity on NDC progress tracking, adaptation actions, and the second one is to provide clarity on the support provided and mobilized for developed countries and support needed and received for developing countries. And all of these, or all of this information, is to inform the global stocktake of the Paris Agreement, which is, as I mentioned previously, a 5 years checkpoint. And the main rule is to assess the collective progress toward the global goal of the Paris Agreement. All right, building on that, the ATF is structured around these 3 pillars: reporting, review, and consideration. And it starts with the BTR, where each party reports information on its GHG inventory, progress made in implementing and achieving its NDC, adaptation actions, and even the support provided, mobilized, needed, or received. And once submitted, the report goes through a technical expert review. And actually, this review checks the consistency and transparency of information. It's also helped country to identify areas for improvements, to assess the progress made in achieving and implementing NDC, and it also looks at capacity building needs for developing countries. And finally, we have in the process the facilitative multilateral consideration of progress, which is like a kind of an open session among parties to discuss results, exchange experiences, and also to strengthen like mutual understanding. So your BTR will be shared in the internet or the platform, and you will receive a lot of questions from all parties. It could be from countries or from organizations. So you need to provide answers to present your BTR and to get engaged in an open space of discussion. And together, these three stages ensure that reporting, it's not only a question of compliance, but it's a kind of learning and improvements process over time. This is a close look at the BTR structure as defined in Decision 5 SEMA 3. So the BTR consists of 4 main chapters. We have the first chapter, GHG inventory, and the NDC progress. Both of them are shall, which means mandatory for all parties. We have also the only additional or voluntary chapter is the chapter of climate change impacts and adaptation. And then we have the chapter on financial, technology transfer, and capacity building, or what we call FTC supports, which is shall for developed and should for developing countries. Shall when it comes to the FTC support mobilized and provided for developed countries, and just should or voluntary for developing countries, which means FTC supports needed and received. So all of them are linked also to some annexes, which are the CERTs and CTFs, and they are also mandatory. So now under the Paris Agreement, we are not talking only about the chapters or the text format of the reports. We are also talking about the electronic reporting via CRTs and CTFs. So the common reporting tables for the chapter 1 on inventory is mandatory. The CTF also for progress in NDC is also mandatory. And for CTF, for the FTC supports is just voluntary. We have also information on participation in cooperative approaches, and this is also mandatory for people or for countries who are already engaged in the cooperative approaches and started exchanging ITMOs. And one additional chapter, which is annex, which is the technical annexes for RED+. And this is just on voluntary basis. I think from the MENA region, no country submitted the RED+ before, and I had discussion with Iraq, so they are thinking of preparing something about that. All right, so how the BTR can help the NDC 3.0 preparation. Actually, the BTR is bringing together all the key elements that you may need to inform your NDC 3.0. For example, it's provide clarity on the 4 main aspects. When we talk about GHG inventory, it shows where emission reduction potential exists. So we will know where we can reduce our GHG emissions. For the progress toward the NDC implementation, it shows also how measures are performing on reality, on the ground. And for adaptation, it's highlighting climate impact and actions taken. And for the support, it's explaining what finance, technology, and capacity building have been received in your country and what about the needs. This is an overview of the chapter related to NDC tracking outline. So in the BTR, the NDC chapter needs to respect this outline, cover national circumstances, institutional arrangements, and then a clear description of a party's NDC, and then information necessary to track the progress, and then your mitigation policies, measures, and plans, and also the summary of greenhouses, the projections, and other information. All right, here an overview of the findings from the first global stocktake adopted as Decision 1 SEMA 5, and which assessed the world collective progress toward the Paris Agreement. So first of all, it found that current efforts are not enough to keep the 1.5 degrees Celsius within reach. And they called also for much deeper emission reduction, for economy-wide NDCs, and a kind of rapid transition away from fossil fuels. The global stocktake also highlighted the need to triple the renewable energy, to double the energy efficiency, and also to strengthen adaptation through like early warning systems or MENE, monitoring and evaluation systems, and national adaptation plans and communications. On support, it confirmed also the importance of scaling up finance and the urgent need to meet and go beyond, which means go more than the objective, which is mobilizing $100 billion per year. For the global stocktake further, it's emphasized the international cooperation, the just transition, some cross-cutting principles, like, for example, equity, urgency, and science-based actions. So here, just a summary of the key points. So what we can understand is that the current efforts are not enough to keep the 1.5 degrees Celsius within reach, which is the main objective of the Paris Agreement. It calls also for tripling renewable energy, for doubling energy efficiency, and phasing down the fossil fuels, and also strengthening adaptation and finance. And for NDC 3.0, it means adding clear emission reduction pathways and fully integrating adaptation and support needs. Sorry. Sorry, I made a mistake. Just 1 second, please. All right. Please, Fernando, if you could just help me in accepting people, the other participants. I think some of them are still waiting. All right.
I'm
here,
adding them.
thank you very much. Here we have an overview of what NDC 3.0 should look like under Decision 1 SEMA 5. So here countries are expected to submit more ambitious NDCs covering now all GHG gases and sectors. And when we talk about developed countries here, so they shall have an economy-wide absolute reduction target. So now it's not just an optional, it's mandatory for all developed countries to have an economy-wide absolute reduction targets, which includes all gases and all sectors. For developing countries, they are just encouraged. But remember, a lot of things who were just voluntary, they are not shall, which means mandatory. So we need to make more efforts to have an economy-wide absolute reduction targets. Each new NDC must reflect a higher ambition than the previous one, and should be aligned with the LTLEDs, which means the long-term low emission development strategy. And also each NDC should now integrate both adaptation and just transition dimension. All right. In addition, all countries, they must now provide the information to ensure clarity, transparency, and understanding, or what we call the ICTU. ICTU table, in some cases, in some NDCs, even the updated one, the second NDC has this information, like, for example, Tunisia, Morocco, I think Egypt, Lebanon, a lot of countries provided already this information. And now it's mandatory for all to provide this table. And not just for your mitigation targets. If you have other targets related to adaptation, co-benefits, or whatever, everything should be there. Why? Because this ICT table is your card, which means your summary of your NDC. It's your actual targets and commitment to the UNFCCC and the global community. Also, you must show how the global SOCTEC outcomes influence your NDC, and use agreed accounting approaches, which means we need to provide and to use the methodologies that are known by the global community, like the IPCC guidelines or software, or some of the modeling tools that everybody knows, like LEAP, like TEAM, like GASMO, etc. And the coming end year of 2035, which means that all NDCs needs to have as a target year 2035. Ideally, as we know, the NDC is 10 years period, which means from 2025 until 2035. It's an encouragement, but it's a highly encouragement, which means that all countries are highly encouraged to adopt this. Why? Because this is actually facilitating the assessment for the global SOCTEC. And the last thing is about the deadline. We will talk further about this. It was 10 February 2025. And this is just like the overview of the ICTU main elements. And I think my colleague Fernando will take you over all of these elements. As a summary here, there are the key links between the three pillars. So just what we need to take home with us, the NDC sets the targets for your climate ambition. The BTR tracks the progress made in implementing and achieving that NDC, and the global SOCTEC reviews and consider all the global efforts. It's important here to note that also when it comes to the deadline of for the NDC 3.0 submission, it was February 10, 2025. But for countries who wanted their NDC to be included in the 2025 NDC synthesis reports, so the cutoff was September 30. This is why, like other countries, plus Morocco submitted on the 30th September. For those who haven't submitted yet their NDC, it should be before COP30. So far, we have only 60 countries who have submitted by September 30. With most of them planning to submit before COP30. In the MENA region, we have 8 countries, including Emirates, I think the first one, then Somalia, Lebanon, Morocco. They already submitted their NDC 3.0. For Jordan also has put forward its NDC vision, which is also considered as the NDC. And for Tunisia, it submitted the first drafts of its NDC. And just last week, Mauritania also submitted the NDC 3.0. So congratulations to Mauritania and all of these countries. And in the meantime, for BTRs, we have 8 countries from the MENA region, Egypt, Lebanon, Morocco, Tunisia, Algeria, Saudi Arabia, and Iraq. And also last week, we have Oman. Congratulations to them also. As we wrap up here, this first session, let's just keep these key takeaways in mind. NDC 3.0 is a crucial chance to raise both ambition and coherence. And the global SOCSEC and SEMA guidance gives us a strong foundation for making these commitments strong. And remember, transparency under the ATF builds trust and drives accountability. And the final message, which is the most important here, is that NDC 3.0 must turn ambition into real, measurable action. And keep in mind that we can never manage what we can't measure. Thank you very much for your attention, and I would like to open the floor for your question and discussion. Thank you. Lina, please go ahead, Lina.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We hear you clearly.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
I am Lina Mbaideen from Jordan. I am the Director of Energy Efficiency and Climate Change Department in the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources. I would like to ask about the ambition and the target for the NDC-3. You already said that the developing country must set its target, and it's not mandatory. It's somehow voluntary, but somehow it's mandatory. Can you explain more? For example, we already submit our target for Jordan to reduce more than 31% by 2030, and now we are working on to update the NDC 3.0. But I don't think that we can finalize it within this month. But already now we are working to update the NDC report, NDC 3. But what are required from the developing country? How much they have to put their target, because they are the most countries that are harmed by the climate change. Can you explain more, please, about this?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, of course, Lina. You're welcome. So what I meant by encourage and mandatory, it's just about the kind of your targets. We saw, and we will see tomorrow what kind of targets we have. We have, for example, in some cases, in some countries, they have like a kind of sectoral targets. Like, for example, in Lebanon, they have the economy-wide target plus some other targets related to energy. We have in Egypt, for example, they have 3 targets which are just sectoral. So now for developed countries, they need to have an economy-wide absolute emission reduction target, which means that their target needs to include all their economy, all the gases, and all categories and all sectors, right? For Jordan, you have already this kind of targets, because in the NDC 2, we worked on that on last year during the workshop. You have already your economy-wide targets related to a baseline scenario, right? So now What is mandatory is to raise the ambition. And when we talk about rising the ambition, it's not only about reducing more GG inventory, GG emissions. It could be like, for example, by adding some other targets related to your co-benefits, related to adaptation, related to. So at the meantime, if the country is not sure 100% that it's good, like honor its commitments, which was already mentioned in the NDC, in the second NDC or updated NDC, you need to be smart in rising your ambition, which is totally logical. When it comes to the type of the targets, for countries who just have sectoral targets, now all developed countries need to have an economy-wide target, right? For other countries and developing countries as our countries, we are just encouraged. But remember that in the ETF, everything, even if we talk about something which is mandatory now only for developed countries, in the next round, it may be mandatory for all, because it was the case for the ICTU table. In the NDC2, it was just on voluntary basis, but now it's mandatory for everyone. So to enhance our capacities and to be more aligned and prepared for the global community and our commitments, it's better to start from this point with an economy-wide emission reduction targets for all countries without any difference between developed and developing, just to ensure that we are very we are prepared for the next commitment. This is what I wanted to explain. And for Jordan, there is no rush, because you already have the economy-wide targets related or compared to a business as usual scenario, if I'm not mistaken. Thank you very much, Lina.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. Do we have any other question? Please go ahead. All right, then please go ahead if you have any question. You may also ask in Arabic. It's not a problem for us. All right. Right, then we can move to the next session with Fernando on the ICTU tables and how it's linked with the BTR and CTF tables. Thank you very much, colleagues. And Fernando, please, the floor is yours. You can continue asking in the chat and I will answer all your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Geltum. Is it possible for you to see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay,
Perfect.
dear colleagues, my pleasure to share this presentation with you. In this occasion, Geltum asked me to share some elements related with what is called information for clarity, transparency, and understanding this ICTU. The origin of this requirement is can be found in the own Paris Agreement. If you go to the Article 4, you can find that there are two important elements. One is a goal for temperature, stating that the temperature increase shouldn't be well below 2 Celsius degrees, but also importantly, there is a goal on emissions. And this is more complicated that the goal on temperature, because temperature is easier to measure, but the emissions are much more complicated. No, so somehow we need to understand everyone in the same level and in the same language when are we reducing the emissions. So countries decided to have a number of decisions under the Paris Agreement pointing towards this identification of clarity, transparency, and understanding for GHG emissions. And probably the most important is Decision 4 under the Paris Agreement that defines that the parties shall provide the information necessary for clarity, transparency, and understanding. The good thing is this information is presented in the Decision 4 and in other decisions that I will present you afterwards. So if you have these decisions, basically you have all the information in your hands. We will go through them, but probably when we talk about information on clarity, transparency, and understanding, we are talking of a list of requirements. A list of requirements related with the initial point, or what is called the reference point, or the base year. We need also to identify when the information that we in particular need to report, and we also need to identify how the information that we are preparing under our NDC and that we will report in our Biennial Transparency Report and our BTR was prepared. The idea is to have a clear picture of how the emissions are presented and accounted, and which are the methodologies used for estimating these GHG emissions. So in reality, when we're talking of ICTU, as I mentioned, we are talking of a list of requirements and answers that every country must provide to clarify the origin of the information. This is related with what is called the NDC accounting, and stating how the GHG emissions were estimated. All these requirements have been accommodated into the BTR contents. The good things of the BTR is that there are, I would say, very rather clear information on how to report and what are the elements that are needed, for instance, indicators, for instance, projections, or identification of policies and measures, and a number of tools or instruments that are the common tabular format tables or the CTF tables, the common reporting tables, that all of them need to be completed by the countries as a part of the BTR submission. And with all this information also that has been produced by the countries to present their first round of BTRs or BTR1s, then many countries are using this information to prepare the next round of NDC 3.0. And that's the good thing, that although between the preparation of the BTR and the preparation of the NDC 3.0, there is not a big gap, this can also be an opportunity to use the elements of the BTR and the team that worked in the BTR to be a similar team that will work in the NDC 3.0 of the countries, and also to use the information into the NDC 3.0 of the BTRs and try to see how how complicated, for instance, was to report under the BTR, to take some lessons and make the NDC 3.0 simpler. For instance, you may evaluate if it's needed to have so many indicators or so many targets in your new NDC 3.0 if under the BTR1 was complicated to collect all the information to report on these indicators. This is an example that I have seen in countries that the NDC 3.0 is much limited in terms of identification of indicators, because countries realize that is not, well, one is not needed to have a big number of indicators under the Paris Agreement, and second, that it's difficult to gather the information for filling all a big number of indicators. In Cairo, I had the opportunity to present this example I like very much of Tunisia, because what Tunisia did was a good integration between the last NDC presented by Tunisia, not the NDC 3.0, but the last NDC presented by Tunisia, who correctly uses this relationship between the ICTU tables in the NDC with the CTF tables in the appendix. So if you go to the NDC of Tunisia, you will find the tables that the country filled with information associated to the ICTU that was the same information that the country was able to present under the CTF appendix table. So I think if you go to this example and you check the NDC of Tunisia and the CTF table, you will find there is a good correlation between the information, and it doesn't present distorted information between one and the others. Well, this is what I wanted to present to you today, and over to you, Keltum, and open for questions if some appear.
Thank you very much, Fernando. Thank you very much for the interesting presentation. And now we would like to open the floor for our colleagues. Please go ahead if you have any question about the ICTU tables or the requirement under the decision for SEMA 1. We already had a question from Miriam for the FMCP. Are all the BTR submitted discussed? And we answered yes, the facilitative multilateral consideration of progress, it's a shall process, which means mandatory for all BTR submitted. So once a country submits its BTR, it will conduct a technical expert review, and then that technical expert review will come out with a report, and once the report is published, the FMCP will take place. So the UNFCCC will contact you with the dates, and then it will be like a kind of a platform to discuss your BTR, to ask questions, and to share the challenges, the gaps. It's like a peer learning or experience sharing session. Yes, and Mr. Hassan Aguzul, he said, hence the importance for developing countries to occupy themselves with LT-LEDs. Of course, 100%, because in the Global Stocktake of 2023, it was mentioned that all NDCs, updated NDCs 3.0 needs to be aligned with the long-term low emission development strategies, which means the national strategies that are already like mandatory for all countries. Mr. Hassan, are you with us? Could you please provide more details about the LT-LEDs? I'm not sure if he's still with us. But yes, Okay, so colleagues, do you have any questions about this session? The first session is one of the most important ones because it's providing the overview of what we are committed on under the NDC 3.0 and what was discussed during the global SOCTEC and what were the recommendations. All right. I think for now we can. Yes. Fernando.
Just if I can add something what you answer regarding if the BTRs need to conduct a technical expert review process, and you correctly mentioned that it goes to all the BTRs submitted. What can be different is the format of the expert review, since countries can request to have a centralized review. It means that or an in-country review. An in-country review means that the team of experts visit the country, whereas a centralized review implies that a number of reviews are conducted in a, say, neutral country and not visiting the country. And we have seen both options taken by countries so far. Probably 90% of the countries are asking for an in-country review, but there is still a 10% of countries that are requested a centralized review.
Yeah, thank you very much, Fernando. That's very important. Fernando, whose countries who asked for a centralized review? China and Brazil, no? One of them?
On top of my mind, beyond what China and Brazil, Argentina also, Indonesia.
Oh, wow.
These are two countries. I mean, in terms of emissions, they are big countries. Other countries are as I said, probably 90% of countries are ask for the in-country reviews. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's encouragement. It's like it's better to like to choose the in-country review because it will just help your stakeholders to gain more information, to gain it's a kind of training with those experts who will come to your country. So it's not it's in comparison could be difficult and for the country to provide more detailed information because when they come to you, it's a kind of working with you for 1 week every day, and some people needs to be committed with them. And they could also go to other sectoral stakeholders to look for the information needed. So it's a kind of more detailed process, but everyone is encouraged to take this and to think about the advantages that you are going to gain from that experience. Mr. Boucham, please go ahead.
Hi, Kalsoum and Fernando. Thank you for the presentation. As I know, following the MPGs, every 4 years it will be a country review for each country. That I have in mind. So it's not voluntary, but every 4 years, at least one country review will happen. Thank you.
Yes, that's true. That's true, Boucham, every 5 years, which means that, for example, for the in-country review, it's mandatory when we talk about the first BTR, when we talk about the NDC achievements, like, for example, when your BTR is providing information about the achievements of your NDC, which means, like, for example, 2030 or 2035 for some countries. And then also when we talk about your updated NDC. So for these 3 kinds, you need to conduct an in-country support, in-country technical expert review. That's for all, but for developing countries, they have the flexibility to choose either centralized or in-country. Is that true, Fernando?
Yeah, that's in the the last paragraphs on the MPGs.
Yeah.
But
And at least one every 5 years, right, Fernando?
Yeah, probably I don't have it in my mind. This part
In
of
my
the
mind,
I
it's
MPGs.
have.
four. It's 4 years in my mind. 4 years.
Yeah. Well, we may check
Let me
if
share
it's
with you.
4 or 5. But in the meantime, Keltum is looking at the MPGs. I can give my experience as a reviewer of BTR and participant as member of the technical expert review team, and I would say that has been a very, I would say, friendly relationships with the countries going for these in-country reviews. Of course, it's more work for the countries to have a visit of expert, but I would say that it's never in a situation trying to find the wrong things in the documents. So it's more like an encouragement to improve the presentation and the reporting, and of course it's up to the countries, for instance, to decide the flexibility, the use of flexibilities, the use of indicators on what type of NDC target they are selecting. No, we as reviewers do not comment on this type of information.
Yes. Thank you very much, Fernando. Mr. Bushan, this is the one of the slides that we already prepared for the one of our webinars. So it says that for in-country review, at least 2 times, 2 BTRs in 10 years period, which means not 5 years, not 4 years, 4 years, but it needs to be 2 times, 2 in-country reviews in 10 years period. Like, for example, for 5 BTRs, 2 of them needs to conduct an in-country review. And we had also one comment from Yahya. Yahya, he told me to explain in Arabic. Would you please just specify what kind of information you need me to explain in Arabic? I can repeat that. Okay, you can just give some indication, or you can just take the floor and Mr. Yahya, تفضل. Tell us what kind of information you need me to explain in Arabic. Otherwise, in the meantime, I may call other colleagues to join us to this quiz. It will be a very quick quiz, but we will have definitely one winner. So please think about scanning the QR code, or you can go to menti.com and enter the code 58230983. We have 11, 12. In the meantime, Mr. Yahya, if you would like to provide more details about the information that you need us to explain, please please go ahead. All right, we have 19. We could wait for others to join. Please take into consideration that the winner should be as fast as he can, because first answer will gain more points. Okay, we can start with 20 participants. 21. It's okay, keep going. Thank you very much, Mr. Yahya. You have my email in the presentations, you can contact me in whenever you want, and we can have a discussion about that. 24. All right, we can start. توكلنا على الله. From where are you joining us today? Egypt, of course. Jordan. We have more participants from Jordan. Jordan, Amman, Morocco, Oman. Thank you very much. Tunisia, Somalia. Tunisia, Somalia, Jordan, Morocco, Oman. I know that we have Saudi Arabia also. Saudi Arabia. I know it. All right. Please indicate your gender. We have 9 females. Gender balance. 10 and 8, 9. 11 and 9. Oh my God, we have 12 and 9. Come on, join us. We have 27 participants already. All right. This is the first question. And we have with us 23 players. Ready. Under which article of the Paris Agreement are nationally determined contribution NDCs established? Under which article of Paris Agreement? Is it Article 6, Article 4, 13, or 5? "17" answer. 11. Bravo. It's 4. Article 4 of Paris Agreement. Question 2 of, we have 21 players of 8. Right? Which report is the main instrument for tracking progress toward the implementation and the achievements of NDC? Which of all of these is the main instrument for reporting on the progress made in NDC? Is it National Communication, Biennial Transparency Reports, NIR, or the Global Stockstake? Report, we're talking about a report, not a process. Great, 8. 8 answer, 8 good answer. The key messages of NDC 3.0 is to translate ambition into measurable action. Is it true? True. Or false? One of the key messages from the global stocktake is to have, that's true. Thank you very much. 20 player. We've lost one. The Enhanced Transparency Framework was established under Article 13 of Paris Agreement. Is that true or false? The Enhanced Transparency Framework was established under Article 13 of Paris Agreement. All right, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. True. It's true. It's Article 13. The Enhanced Transparency Framework is under Article 13 of Paris Agreement, and then NDC is under Article 4 and Article 6, Cooperative Approaches and Carbon Markets. Which of the following is mandatory for all parties in preparing NDC 3.0? Which of the following is mandatory for all parties in preparing NDC 3.0? Is it providing ICTU information? Adopts 2030 end year? Include fossil fuel subsidies? Is it the answer 1, 2, or 3? And of course, we have 17 good answers. The ICTU table now is mandatory for all parties. Okay, question number 8. According to decision 4 SEMA 1, which principle ensures that parties account for their NDCs with credibility and consistency? According to decision, which principle ensure that parties account for their NDC with credibility and consistency? Is it MRV, TACCC principles, IPCC guidelines, or flexibility for developing countries? Now we are talking about consistency and credibility. TACCC, transparency, accuracy, completeness, comparability, and consistency. It's actually the TACCC, transparency, accuracy, completeness, and comparability. 9. Question number 5. What year are the next NDCs, NDC 3.0 due? Is it 2023, 2025, 2027, or 2030? When do we need to submit the NDC 3.0? In which year? Is it 2023 or 2025 or 27 or 2030? Of course, it's 2025, and as we mentioned, the deadline was 10 February 2025, and then we had some flexibility for other countries who couldn't submit their NDC. So if they wanted that to be included in the synthesis reports of NDC 2025, so they needed to submit it before 30 September. And then some of the other countries who couldn't submit in those dates, they still have a chance before COP or before the end of the year. But at least we need to respect this year, which is 2025. All right, 16 players. No, 17, join us. But you can always scan the QR code. The Global Stocktake or GSP concluded that current global efforts are sufficient to keep the 1.5 degrees Celsius goal within reach. Is it true or false? Is the Global Stocktake is saying that the global efforts is enough to reach the goal of Paris Agreement? Or we need to enhance more our NDCs? Is it true or false? We have 18 answers. Exactly, it's false. Okay, question number 7. What is the main purpose of Chapter 2 in the BTR? We saw Chapter 1, GG inventory, Chapter 2. Is it about reporting on adaptation, tracking the progress made in implementing and achieving NDC, providing inventory data, or presenting support received or support needed? Okay, we have the second Answer B, tracking progress made in implementing and achieving the NDC. The chapter 1 is about NDC, is about GG inventory, 2 tracking the progress, then 3 adaptation, and 4 and 5 about the supports. ICTU guidance applies only to mitigation. Is it true or false? ICTU guidance applies only to mitigation. Is it true or false? We have 15, 16, 17, good answer. It's false. As we mentioned previously, in your NDC, if you have identified other targets who are related to adaptation or other things, you need to mention all of them in your ICTU guidance. Why? Because the ICTU table is providing the summary and your real commitment to the global community. So everything related to your targets should be included and mentioned in your ICTU guidance. Okay, developing countries must lead with economy-wide absolute emission reduction targets. Developing countries must lead with economy-wide absolute emission reduction targets. Must, which means mandatory. Are developing countries needs to provide an economy-wide absolute emission reduction, or it's just encouragement? It's just encouragement. Thank you very much. Okay, the final question. Final question, question number 8. Which of the following best describes the core ambition cycle under the Paris agreements? We are talking about the ambition cycle that we presented in the first slides. Is it NIR, NC, National Inventory, and NAP, or NDC-BTR Global Stocktake, or ETF Red Plus MRV, or pure NAMA TOR? One good answer. The ambition cycle is composed by 3 pillars. Of course, we have a lot of good answers. That's great. Thank you very much. So now, let's discover who's... Oh, wow. Rihab from Somalia, Pufi. Who's Pufi? But there is no difference. Pufi Muna. Yeah, of course. Of course, Muna is the winner. Of course, Muna, please represent yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Kulthum. This was really fun. But this is Mona Ayub, and I'm the NDC and LT-LEDs expert at the Regional Center for MENA and South Asia.
Yes, it does make sense. Muna is leading all NDCs in the MENA with RCC MENA.
Thank you, Kulthum.
But from participants, like other participants who are representing countries, we have Rihab from Somalia. So congratulations to both of you, Rihab and Muna, of course. Montana, Boucham, Mr. Boucham is there also. And the other names, I can just figure out who is that. Okay, thank you very much for joining. Now, please stay with us. I need your feedback. The first question, how satisfied are you with this technical webinar? Are you very satisfied, neither satisfied, nor dissatisfied, very dissatisfied? And remember that this is just only the first part of our webinar series. We still have much to say and to discuss together. 9 and 4, thank you very much. 9 and 6, thank you very much. So nobody's mad. That's good enough for us. Thank you very much. All right, so we can go to the second question. What was this event useful for your work? Is it yes, no, or in part? 9 That's great. Thank you very much for that. And we are glad to hear that we had like an added value. What was the most useful that you will take away from this webinar? Just this first webinar. We have ICTU, NDC 3.0, ICTU guidance, which are mandatory, ICTU, 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 that's great. NDC 3.0, BTR, how to integrate ICTU table in the NDC 3.0. Fernando, your session was very relevant. Of course. Okay, thank you very much, colleagues, for joining today. And I would like to open also the floor for discussion. If you may have any other questions, we still have 5 minutes before closing. Please go ahead if you have any questions or you want us to explain something else, or you want also just to provide some details or experience or share your experience, please go ahead. And we will see you tomorrow at the same time. And tomorrow it will be an overview of how to identify the smart targets and their indicators, and also how to calculate the progress made. And we will have 2 small exercises and the Menti quiz, very quick Menti quiz. Please, Rihab, go ahead. Rihab is representing UNDP from Sudan.
Hi. Hi, Kulthum.
Hi, Rihab.
Yeah, thank you, Kulthum. Actually, now I left UNDP since 2 months ago. Now I have joined the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change in Qatar. Yeah, just to inform you that. So I was not involved actually in the preparation of the BTR, but I just want to hear from countries that have submitted the BTR regarding the preparation of the electronic reporting for the BTR, CRT, sorry, CTF table and CRT tables. What difficult they face? I am aware that it's not mandatory to report these tables, but if countries had to do this, what difficulty they face? Because I knew that it's very complicated and it needs a lot of data and very detailed data. So I wish if I could hear from one of the countries that has adopted the BTR to reflect their experience in the electronic reporting. Thank you. Just in a snapshot for that. Thank you.
Rihab, I have a I can't hear you like clearly. It's I think you have a problem with your connection. Could you maybe you can write down your question in the chat?
Okay.
Please go ahead and write down your question. I know that it may be challenging with connection these days. Uyam mentioned the same thing. All right. Please go ahead if you have any other questions, or we can say see you tomorrow. And please, Rehab, just write down your question and I will answer in the conversation here and send it to you by email as well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're always welcome, Rehab. And sorry about that. Rehab is representing Sudan, not Somalia.
Thank you.
All right. All right. Thank you very much, colleagues, and see you tomorrow, inshallah. Same time and same link. You can use the same link. See you tomorrow. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
everyone.
Kulthum.
Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Thank
Kulthum.
you, Sibusham. Thank you, Si Hassan.
Merci. Au revoir.